Adam Curry, a guy who I used to think was the coolest guy on television and MTV VJ for years, and then is the guy really responsible for podcasting. I mean, he worked with Steve Jobs to get podcasts onto the Apple iPod at the very beginning. He is wicked smart. And has been following things like ESG and the Great Reset for a while. We welcome Mr. Adam Curry. How are you, Adam?
Hey, Glenn. Good to see you, my brother.
Good to see you. We didn't meet until a couple of weeks ago, and I can't believe that friends, we have to have mutual friends, haven't put us together earlier because we think so much alike.
And I think, as I told you on your podcast, not only do we think alike, but we've had similar paths, but we're also, I think, more or less the same age. After this wonderful visit I had with you, you can see I want to be like you so much. I bought one of those microphones that you have. I'm like, wow, I sounded really good on Glenn's show. Now I need a little beard going.
Yeah, just a little goatee, and you look a little like Colonel Sanders, and you're all set. I want to read something to you, Adam, and just get your thoughts on it. Okay. We're working with 20 different states right now on legislation, anti-ESG legislation, and having the treasuries divest themselves of places like BlackRock, okay?
Yeah.
That are clearly working against the interests of the everyday people. So this is a statement from the Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry. And I want to read this to you and get your thoughts. Some in the Idaho legislature are opposed to consider legislation to deal with ESG, or environment, social, and governance. ESG, a risk management system, is being labeled as the latest threat to individual rights. While as preposterous as this sounds, folks like Glenn Beck have given legislators a farcical conspiracy theory from which legislation is being crafted. While it's easy to dismiss due to its lack of basis in reality, the problems it creates for businesses are real. Risk management for all companies, small and large, private or publicly traded, have common threads in determining asset risks from environmental factors such as climate change or local weather patterns. Additional risks are present in employment and management relationships and community acceptance of the business. Finally, the governance of all companies are critical considerations when it comes to risk management for investors. Business is, by definition, based on a risk-reward system. Legislative efforts to manage how risk inputs are evaluated are unwelcome and foundationally dangerous to free enterprise. These people are actually using that. The Idaho Association of Commerce and Industry believes and defends that if Idaho wants to retain the moniker of the least regulated state in the nation, there is no role for government to dictate how business and their investors will evaluate the importance to each company, whether it is through formal systems labeled as ESG or otherwise. Listen to this. The tragic reality of the new world is one where talking heads drive policy to stir the masses by creating non-existent problems and then solving the problem with massive overreaches into the private sector. Businesses cannot stand by and allow this to happen, and we will firmly defend our members' ability to run their own companies in the way that best suits them as a private and independent entity.
Well, first of all, congratulations. You are now an official conspiracy theorist.
Oh,
this is
yeah.
Good news. This is good news.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's why I always call myself the crackpot. I figure that's much easier. They don't have to kill me. Well, unfortunately, and so much happened in such a fast amount of time since we last saw each other. And a lot of it's coming much closer. I think we're seeing the total capture. The capture is more or less complete. And with that, I mean, if we go back and just talk specifically about what ESG is, and it's great hearing it now. A lot of people are talking about it. They're not quite sure exactly what it means. But again, it stands for environmental social governance. And this is a there's a measuring standard that goes along with this, which was created literally by the bankers, including BlackRock, and with a separate foundation to determine how environmentally conscious, socially conscious, and governance conscious a corporation is. And we're talking mainly about publicly listed companies.
And hang on just a second. To give you an idea, there's no individual choice on anything. I've talked to people in the oil industry this week, and they have said, Glenn, the leases and everything, yeah, we need that. We can't get a dime from the banks. So that's ESG. The banks say, no, those oil rigs, that's reputational risk.
Not just the banks, it's much worse than that. It's the retirement funds, pension funds, insurance companies, and they have, for their own clients, they have certain things they can and cannot invest in. And this ESG has become this fictitious score. And if I don't have a Merrill Lynch retirement account, but I understand that people who do are already seeing the ESG score of their portfolio, of the companies that they have in their portfolio.
Right.
And so we've seen a lot of this taking place over the past probably 5 years is when it really started to accelerate. So environmental, that's all Green New Deal. And holy crap, we totally weren't paying attention, and they passed $1.5 trillion, of which half is going into that kind of stuff.
You mean the latest bill that just passed?
The omnibus bill.
Yeah, the omnibus bill.
These things are horrible.
Yeah.
These things are horrible when you look in at all the money. And that's all. I'm sure the Federal Reserve is very happy. Oh yes, we got to push some money out. That's not going to help inflation. But the social part, we've been watching. Really the acceleration with Black Lives Matter. You saw every corporation giving away tens of millions of dollars, donating tens of millions of dollars to Black Lives Matter Inc., which, by the way, has been completely dissolved. There's no one around who runs it. The founders
find
are
the money.
buying mansions. Where's the money? Yep. There's a lot of groups looking for money. Say, hey, we were all there. The money went through you. Where did it go? So that's also and then you have the governance part, which is equity. So do we have the right amount of black and brown people in the organization? Do we have the right amount of female to male to transgender to whatever? It all has to be equitable and equal, and equity is really the key term. But the social governance capture has come closer to the environmental with the war, I'll just say it, in Ukraine. I mean, first of all, COVID is yesterday's news. We're still in that headspace where we're freaked out about stuff, and during lockdowns, etc., the thing that everybody could kind of glom onto, which created this social cohesion that we all, oh my goodness, we can get out of this, was masking, social distancing, and eventually proof of vaccination, and et cetera, et cetera. So now we're still kind of reeling from COVID. Things are stopping, but there's not even any news about it. Please pay no attention to the Pfizer documents that came out. And we have tremendous inflation, uncertainty in the world. War is always scary. And what have we all glommed onto? Thanks to the corporations who led the way, the huge divestiture in starting with Russian oil, but then tech companies, everyone just can't. I mean, I'm surprised I didn't wake up this morning and go to Google Maps and not be able to find Russia. I mean, they canceled. And we're all jumping on board. And this is wrong. This is fundamentally, at a human level, wrong.
It's wrong also because despite what the people say, that this is free market, that it's individuals get to choose their own way, that is not true.
It's not the case. It's not the case.
It is the exact opposite.
Wall Street is driving this. Wall Street is pushing. They're saying you cannot be in Russian stocks or Russian assets or commodities. You've got to get out of it. And because of this capture that's taken place with the large corporations who are advertising and telling everybody how great it is, I mean, the things that are happening. This morning, I got an email from Universal Audio. They make audio equipment that I use. Well, this is so horrible what's going on. We cut off all Russian customers. They can't even access our IP addresses. I'm like, why are you doing that? Isn't creativity cross boundaries? Isn't that for all people of the world? Same with, I'm a ham, as in ham radio operator. There's a database online called QRZ.com. QRZ.com, and you can find all the call signs in there, and you can look stuff up. These guys, they took out all the Russian call signs overnight. This is insanity. It is psychological escape, and we're following straight into demise.
You know,
what is happening?
I said earlier today, if they can do this to Vladimir Putin, who willy-nilly just throws people out of windows and gets away with it, has billions of dollars and a country with a ton of nukes. If they can do this to him, what the hell do you think they'll think about doing something to you when you disagree? I mean,
well, and it's the cancellation that is the scary part,
yes.
Glenn. It's because it's financial canceling. And they did it to Canadian truckers. In the omnibus bill, I don't know the exact. I think it was $100 billion the IRS is going to receive.
Yes.
And you know who they're not going to go after? Goldman Sachs.
Yeah.
They're not going to go after BlackRock. They're going to go after small people, middle class.
Probably people who have a low ESG score. Probably parents who are standing up in their school board meetings and saying this is wrong. Those people are going to be targeted.
Yes, and you were talking to Michael Malice earlier, another fine Texas resident, and he's absolutely right with the direction we're headed with this announcement. It's just another let's go study stuff and come back in 6 months. But the cryptocurrency executive order. Now,
biggest story of the week. I think that's the biggest story of the week.
Because once the central bank digital coin comes in, and you can find online videos of the director of the Bank of International Settlements talking about this. Again, the
Janet
Canadian
Yellen.
Bank Association. It's open. They're very open about it. That your money will have expiration. If they give you money, you might not be able to use it after a certain period. Literally, your dollars could be earmarked, and this can be tracked all the way through your spending habit. And when it pops up somewhere that you want to, I can imagine with the environmental part at a certain point, sorry, you can't buy gas today. You've surpassed your credits. Yeah. And I know this sounds like, but China is doing this. And there's one other thing I want to say about
Russia started doing it too. Russia's now doing it.
Yeah. Well, of course, it's a globalist movement.
Correct.
Ultimately, the idea is to get us all people enslaved underneath what they're doing. But the way I see it is it's a perfect two-pronged strategy. Now you can inflate oil prices. You can make energy very expensive through legislation, executive orders, etc. I truly believe that the idea, and this is what you're hearing our administration saying, don't worry, we're going to put 500,000 charging stations in. Don't worry, oil won't be a problem once you buy an electric vehicle. That's what they want everybody to do. It's obvious. And they will push us in that direction. It will become unaffordable to commute to work. A whole section of people, just like COVID, will have no problem working from home, and it will be it's the physicals versus the virtuals, even though you and I, by definition, are kind of virtuals. The physicals still have to go to work. They have $5-6 a gallon gas. It's going to break that system. Go home. You can't work. We'll send you some digital dollars. Now, it's not tomorrow, but it's coming.
It's coming, I think, sooner. Maybe longer than we would expect, but sooner than we hope. In that executive order that Biden put out this week, it says we have 6 months to decide and come up with a plan, and we're going to consult everyone. Well, it talked about all its stakeholders, other countries, businesses around the world, labor unions, but it didn't say anything about the American people or Congress. Do you know that process? Is it all through the Federal Reserve? They get to choose?
Well, we have to go back to the Constitution, who's really allowed or has the power to create money, and that is certainly not a commercial bank. But
Right.
that's, the Federal Reserve Act changed that, so that would be something that we would have to go back to. But I think that what is good for people to understand, and I came to my own understanding when I talk to banker friends or people in politics. You even see it now when they talk about raising the debt limit. And there's there's always a polarizing issue, like, oh my goodness, the Republicans are going to shut down this, the Democrats are going to shut down the government. But what is really going on is, and they're always surprised, like, well, that you can't not raise the debt limit. That's un-American. I mean, you will literally hear people say that. That's un-American, because the way our system works, which the financial system is, and this is why the Federal Reserve, who does create our money through debt, says, we like to keep inflation at 2% a year. That's not 2% what you're paying extra in gas or what you're paying for household goods or this consumer price index they've made up and changed throughout the years. That's how much money they need to print every single year to create in order for the system to work. And that's why, a Toyota truck in the 70s cost $5,000. Now it starts at $50,000. That is the result of money printing throughout the decades.
And what's crazy is you saw this in real time recently. They said in 2008 the price of gas was $3.41. But what was the price of gas?
It was $4.11.
$4.11. Yeah. And now today, in today's dollars, they say due to inflation,
that would be like $5.25.
You're like, wait, that was 12 years ago. What are you talking about? It's not like 1950 to today.
Well, so now the gig is up. Because throughout the financial crisis of 2008, 2009, when they created a whole lot of money, then we had a similar issue in the liquidity, i.e., banks weren't trusting each other to even lend to each other. So there's one or two weak sisters in the mix, which is still in there. We don't know where. Now we have another $1.5 trillion going in. So they're solving these problems kind of as they go along. But the fix is the central bank digital currency, because then you don't have to create more money. You can destroy money, and you can destroy it directly from people by taking off minute amounts of their bank account after the decimal in just forever.
Adam Curry, great to talk to you. Hope to talk to you again soon. Thank you very much.
Anytime, man.